I want to start with this. It was a very cold, -6 day in Davos, and I have got to work 7 years just to get accreditation in. So it was the last day. I was walking past, things were being dismantled. I was going for my last interview. Then I heard this very interesting conversation. I stopped for 15 minutes, eavesdropped on that conversation. I turned around after that conversation finished, said to this guy, "Can I have you as my last interviewee?" And then he just said, "Sure, why not?" And that's Tom Zaki. So I want to give him the first right to present. That's how it's going to work. Tom's going to present, and then Peter, and then Michelle, and they're all going to talk to us about circular economy. Just like I showed you the chewing gum package, we together with humanity, create billions of tons of waste, a quarter of which, if I get the facts right from Tom, goes into our waterways, ended up in the ocean. And we all feel sad and even cried when we see the dolphins, when we see the sperm whales, when we see the turtles that are around us a long time ago, and we don't see them anymore because some of them are floating lifeless because of plastic in the ocean. 3 years ago, I begged Tom for an interview because he was the first person, as the founder and CEO of TerraCycle, the company, that managed to take plastic from the ocean and make the fast-moving consumer good companies, FMCG, like Procter & Gamble, use that as their bottling process. So, Tom Zaki, please enlighten us on what we can do in circular economy.
It's a real pleasure and honor to be able to chat with you today and to share with you a little bit about how we view the circular economy. Today, just for a little bit of context, TerraCycle operates for about 20 years in all the countries you see here. Most recently, we've entered your neighboring market, Thailand, and are in the process of opening India. Now, I want to show you a little video that gives you a little context in what we're all about. An average American produces 4.5 pounds of waste per day.
While recycling is now commonplace for some materials, many polluting products are still destined for landfill.
On this Earth Day, we want to take a look at the future of environmentalists, eco-capitalism.
It's a big win. It's good for the planet, good for the economy.
At a new eco-capitalist company called TerraCycle, whose motto is, "There's no such thing as garbage."
Dubbed the Google of garbage, TerraCycle is an innovative company taking things like toothpaste tubes, chippy bags, and cigarette butts and turning them into eco-friendly products.
Our goal at TerraCycle is to try to avoid waste ending up in our landfills, incinerators, or even our oceans. And what we do here is we construct national programs where people can collect waste streams that have no recycling solution on them today, everything from cigarette butts to latex gloves to chewing gum and all sorts of different things, collect them and then process them in a circular way so the materials go around again.
The key to garbage really is that everything can be recycled. There's simply no exception. It's one of economics.
We recycle everything people thought couldn't be recyclable, things like cigarette butts, chewing gum, dirty diapers, even femcare waste. I mean, you name it.
So this is a finished shipping pallet that is made from our recycled cigarette waste.
Plastic is made from 30% used chewing gum. TerraCycle is taking dirty diapers and melting them into park benches.
We've created the world's first recyclable shampoo bottle made with beach plastic.
We typically donate a small donation of about 2 cents per piece of waste you collect to your account, and we pay a few $1 million out every year in these form of donations.
By showing companies that they can win by investing dollars in social good and purposeful activities, they will do more of those things. We're in this to show that you can be a very successful social enterprise with the key goal of eliminating as much waste from being burned or buried as possible while being profitable. So hopefully that gives you a little taste. Now we're talking here today about the circular economy. And that always begins by defining the linear economy, which is most products today are extracted, made, and then become waste after an incredibly short use. So the first question we ask is, how do we bend that and start recycling things, though typically, into something else? Now the important thing to note is everything in the world can be recycled. The real question is, why are some things recycled and others not? And that has entirely to do with whether waste management companies can make money. If your costs of collection and processing are more than the value, it won't make money, and inversely, if they're less than the value, they will. And so everything can go around. It's just a factor of economics, whether it's 100 million plants packaged in margarine containers, whether it's bags made from chip wrappers, all the way to dresses, comedians wearing jackets made from chip bags. These things create a lot of visibility, but the real volume solution to waste is the science. These shipping trucks are also made from the exact same material that was worn in that jacket before. The jacket creates huge visibility and excitement, and this creates monumental volume solutions to the waste. Everything can go around, whether things that everyone sort of gets excited about, like cigarette butts that are made into plastic products like these, whether it's aerosol containers into exercise parks in the UK, whether it's gardens from cosmetic waste, everything can become circular. Now, the important part here is what are the business models, because recycling flip-flops into playgrounds does not make economic sense, which is why flip-flops are today not recyclable around the world. So what we focus on is trying to get other value out of the waste beyond just the material value. In this example, like working with major retailers who help fund these programs, collecting and recycling hundreds of millions of shoes every year. Whether it's toothpaste tubes into playgrounds, even in Japan, for example, we will be building all of the Olympic podiums for this year's Tokyo Olympics by collecting hard-to-recycle waste through funding from P&G in every AEON store in Japan, and all that waste is being turned into the podiums the athletes will be standing on. So the funny joke, because you may know the Olympic medals are also circular, they're made from cell phone waste. So if you work really hard, spend a decade winning your sport and get a medal, you will get a piece of garbage standing on garbage in the Tokyo Olympics. But this is very important because this is what drives the business model. Why does P&G fund this? Because it helps them beat their competition. People will prefer P&G products over, say, other brands. Why does AEON do this? Because it drives foot traffic to their stores. This is the key to the circular economy. It's not going to these actors and saying, please do this because it's the right thing to do, but instead, please do this because it will drive traditional business value. And then if you can do that through purpose, then it really unlocks and creates major scale. You're going to see this replicated in many other cities around the world as the Olympics move around. Everything can go around, whether it's aerosol containers into bicycles for children in need, driving 500,000 new customers to the biggest pharmacy in this example in Germany, all the way to car seat recycling, where in this program last month we collected 10% of all the car seats in the United States. Now, why would a retailer like Target or Walmart fund this? Because half the people coming to their stores to recycle car seats were not their consumers. And this is the key as you think about how to enable circular economy in any country, is not just to frame it in what is the right thing to do, but to frame it in how it will drive core business value. Whether it's cosmetics in the UK or electric toothbrushes in South Korea, whether it's sponges in Japan, everything can go around, even diaper recycling. We recently launched with funding from Pampers in Holland. This is now expanding to France and soon Asia as well. So everything, even the most difficult to recycle waste streams, like dirty diapers, can create solutions that can be completely funded without any outside funding requirements. Now, even cigarettes, and as mentioned, chewing gum, which is now being collected and recycled in Mexico. So this takes you to the first step of the circular economy, bending the circle and starting to create recycling solutions. But notice in all these cases, we're recycling the waste into something else. So the next question we ask is, how do you really complete this, making a true circular economy, taking away the need to extract new materials and making those primary products from waste? Now, we have many examples, won't be able to show you all of them due to time, so I'm going to pick one that I think is very topical today, which is the concept of ocean plastic. You all know about it. Ocean plastic today is a massive issue. 25% of the world's plastic ends up in the ocean. And I do want to say a lot of the world points the finger at Southeast Asia, but in fact, North America used to be dumping all of its garbage out into the oceans until about the 1980s. So this is truly a global responsibility. It looks like this, and this is what we think about it as, though in fact 95% of this plastic sinks to the bottom. And there are no solutions I've seen today that address the sinking materials, only really the floating ones. So we launched the world's first shampoo bottle at the World Economic Forum on January 2017. Here it is, the world's #1 brand of shampoo made 25% from ocean plastic. And this is wonderful and created great headlines. But the insight I want to share with you is the business model. Because usually companies, producers, would like to use recycled content, but only if it's the same price and same quality as virgin equivalents of plastic made from petrochemicals. Here, you're looking at a plastic that is 10 times the price of normal plastic and so low in quality because it's been floating in the ocean, an iconic bottle had to change its color. First time in the history they've ever done that. And the way this was able to be done was we found that by injecting purpose into a product, easy to understand purpose, like ocean plastic, they can greatly reduce the need for marketing because the free media, the earned media will do it for them, and you can create a robust supply chain which has now won awards from the United Nations. It's in 21 countries and has been replicated by competitors all over the world, like Unilever now replicating the same thing with us as a way to catch up to this innovation. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we launched this for the first time in Asia, in Japan, with a dish soap bottle made 25% from ocean plastic collected on the shores of Japan. So this gets us to what I call a recycling circle. This is the most basic circular economy principle. But is this enough? Can we recycle our way out of waste? And can we make our products from enough recycled materials to solve the idea of garbage? And I would argue, as a business dedicated to this, that you cannot. Recycling is the best way to manage waste, but it's only a solution to the symptom of waste. It's not going to solve for the idea of waste. And to do that, we need to tighten the circle and move to what we call a reuse economy, which is ironically exactly the way the world used to be up until disposability was invented.
We're going to have to look at Sarawak closer because this is the oil and gas region, right? So who better than Peter Godfrey, who worked in the oil and gas for the longest time and now is a champion of circular economy and sustainability. How do we transform? Do we push it all out together? What's the mix and what's the efficiency? I'm with you, Peter, because not only do I like to fly with you, but I think any institution or being that takes the most powerful resources out of the earth of where we are have the greatest responsibility to ensure the sustainability. And with that, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, and thank you. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for the introduction. And I'd like to follow Tom with a question. I'm going to ask you a question, and we're going to come back now to talk about the energy world as opposed to the product world to a certain extent. And my question is this. If you had a blank sheet of paper and limited resources, wherever you live, whether you're an international person living here in Sarawak, would you create an energy system that exists today? And I think most of you would agree that if we look at today, we would not create the system exactly as it is today. Technology has moved on, and the problem that we face when we talk about the energy in transition, cleaner energy, more efficient energy, is that somehow we need to re-architecture where our energy systems go in the future, taking into account new technologies, clean energy, and creating a much more resource-efficient world. So today, let me just very quickly start off by saying who the Energy Institute is. And our role in life is very simple. The Energy Institute is a UK institution, and our fundamental role in life is to really make sure that energy is better understood, it's better managed, and it's better valued. And today, what I'm really going to talk about what the value of energy is all about, and that's what I'll be concentrating on. And I'm going to concentrate on that really by looking at some fundamental trends that are obviously occurring in the world today. The first thing is growth. We are not in any way going to stop using energy. Energy is a fundamental component of our lives, of development, and every other part of our existence. But certain other things are happening. We have population growth, we have a major growth of urbanization, we have fundamental changes happening in the energy and transportation world, and of course, the challenges around climate change, air pollution, decarbonization are massive. But my thesis when we start talking about the circular economy is the issue that, yes, we're talking about energy efficiency. The issue that we rarely talk about is resource efficiency. And the first point I want to make is about my old industry, the oil and gas industry, but let's talk about hydrocarbons. If we look at the number of molecules that the oil, gas, and coal industry takes out of the ground today, less than 20% of those molecules actually turns into useful end-use electricity or energy or chemicals or petrochemicals. Less than 20%. The issue is, how do we create a world, and this is a fundamental issue when we talk about the resource economy and the circular economy, is how do we create a more resource-efficient world, not just a more energy-efficient world. And we can do so really by thinking about the fact that technology can enable us, business is no longer the same as it was before, and we can begin to start looking at a new world. Around us we see the SDGs, and I think what's interesting is to just reflect back as to where those SDGs come from. And before it happened, Ban Ki-moon, and before him, the Secretary General of the United Nations, coined this expression of 5 Ps, and it's still worth going back to this, because this underpins where we all need to go. We need to create a world where, firstly, we recognize our people and the role that energy plays for our people to end poverty, end hunger in all its form and dimensions, and to ensure that all human beings, wherever they are, can fulfill their potential and dignity in lives and live in a healthy environment. That's number one. The planet. We have a role to protect our planet from degradation, and that's again where the circular economy plays a major role. But let's not forget prosperity. It is to ensure that we can all enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives. And we need energy to do that. So let's not ignore the fact that energy is not going anywhere quickly. But we need to do that within a peaceful environment, and we need to do that in the concept of the fact that there are a number of stakeholders involved, and partnership plays a key role in developing all of those things. As Ban Ki-moon said, and this is another very important point, and this is what he said in 2012, but I still remember these words kindly, is that energy is the golden thread that connects economic growth, social equity, and environmental sustainability. Energy actually has a fundamental role in creating environmental sustainability. So these things are all interconnected, and that's where the circular economy plays its role. So, in this world, and in this technology world, where a lot of things are changing, all of hydrocarbons obviously are challenged, we're seeing different demands and different pressures put on us, we're seeing different geopolitical equations, we're seeing new technologies and new materials, we're seeing massively shifting trends throughout our energy value chain, from upstream to downstream, to retail, to fast-moving products, as Tom described. We are now in a great world of change that must take account of where the circular economy is going. Yesterday, we talked quite a lot about the energy trilemma. But the point here, when we look at reliability, affordability, and security, is there are 2 other elements that we rarely talk about. And again, this is where the circular economy comes in, which are, 1, nothing will happen without public acceptability, consumer opinion, and change of behaviors. We all need to work in a model at which we can begin to start changing behavior and changing our concept of life.
When I heard GRI is going to be on my panel, Michelle Lemons is here, the regional head for ASEAN Hub, I just had one question in the pre-council room. How is Malaysia credibility in reporting environmental and social governance?
Circular economy goes to the heart of some sustainability issues. So we all know the planetary boundaries. We all know that we're consuming far more than we can continue, and we know that the consumption patterns are growing. So we're making our problem worse and worse every day. We can't keep going on this journey. We have to change something. If you look at waste, I think we've talked about it from different perspectives. I'd like to talk about it as an asset. I'd like to talk about it as true profit and loss economics. All of you are in the business of giving back to society, giving to the government so that they can achieve SDGs, and making money for your stakeholders and shareholders, and in partnership with that, giving to your customers and your investors and your associates. And I think one of the things about looking at circular economy is it helps us directly achieve one of the major SDGs we can see around ourselves, which is about responsible consumption and production. And that's an extremely important part of what we need to work on together. That one, great. So GRI, I think probably most of you will know who GRI are, but just to let me recap. So we're about better decisions. Well, actually, we're about better outcomes. You get better outcomes through better decisions. You get better decisions through better information. And guess what? That comes from disclosure and reporting, which is really at the essence of GRI. We help organizations, governments, businesses understand how they impact on the world outside them from an ESG perspective, and then we help them figure out what's material in those components and then disclose that for investors, for associates, for customers. One of the things about reporting that's a little bit different in some ways that you might talk about GRI is about the transparency and trust that reporting can build up. So GRI is about non-financial data. It's about longer-term perspectives. It's about treating an investor as one of the stakeholders that you have in the mix of reporting. And it's about figuring out what's important. Some might say, reporting, very boring. I've got to do it as a compliance. Let me tell you, we're missing out on the opportunity. The process of going through reporting helps us understand our metrics. It allows us to set targets for improvement, and guess what? I think you all know, if we report on it and we set targets, we all improve. That's the way that we work. And I think the last thing that I wanted to highlight is the multi-stakeholder componentry, and that's one of the most important parts of what we do. And so all of you who do report, and Malaysia do a good amount of reporting using GRI. Just recently in Singapore, NUS and Singapore Stock Exchange announced that over 90% of the listed companies are using GRI as a basis. And actually, the changes from the stock exchanges in the region was one of the major reasons why GRI moved in, that enablement to start recognizing the contributions and how we impact. For those of you who are not, the standards themselves are broken up around components which are independently governed. And the one that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today is the waste revision standard. So while we've just recently brought out a tax standard, which is all about transparency in the way that you pay, recognize taxes across the organizations and countries in which you operate. But the really interesting one that we're just about to release next year is around waste, and hence it's particularly pertinent right now. So I think we've talked on the take, make, dispose is of the past. We've talked that, and actually I think this was, we've talked about energy and fossil fuels. Actually, waste is becoming almost a more dirty word because we haven't addressed it, we haven't recognized it in so many parts. As someone said the other day, waste is not the problem. The actual design and the systems, and also our management of how we look after it once it's been developed is the problem. And so I think I said to you about the asset component, recognizing the value in those assets, whether it be through something like biomass, which has been a cost item on most P&Ls for a long time, can actually move to a revenue item, can actually become positive in our balance sheets. And if we think about some of the work that needs to be done, we've been working on this waste standard now for around 18 months. Let me just give you a quick overshot. Some of the things, for those of you who've used GRI, is about trying to recognize and report. So we talk about the creation of waste. We talk about the result of it. We're looking to measure both inside the value chain and outside the value chain. How do organizations reuse, recycle, recover, what goes to landfill, what gets incinerated? But also, how do we focus strategies on prevention and also on the transition to a less waste-based management system? And of course, the closed-loop responsibility. How do we move outside our direct control and start to look at the impacts, either by getting the resources into our supply chain or what happens to them post-consumption? And so the standard, as you can see from the deadlines, is all about helping better communication. It will be coming out early next year, and so I look forward to working with many of you on that as we start to look to apply. Thank you very much for your time, and let me hand back the reins.